Perfect. All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Thursday, September 9th, 2021 Roanoke County School Board meeting. If you all would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. All right, moving on to item 2.01. I've got announcements of changes in the agenda. Do I have any? I don't think so. So can I get a motion for approval of the agenda?
So moved.
All
Second.
right, thank you, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Walmer?
Yes.
Mr. Linden?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Greenway?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ray?
Yes.
Mr. Morrell?
I know. And Madam Clerk, my mistake here, I got so excited talking to the scout group here. Can we back up just a minute? And why don't you go ahead and call the roll for us so we can make this meeting official?
Mr. Walmer?
Here.
Mr. Linden?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Greenway?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ray?
Here.
Mr. Morrell?
Yes, ma'am. All right. Presentation and recognitions. I just want to take this time and recognize Cub Scout group from mainly from the Glenville area. I know we got some Salem residents there, but like to welcome everybody. If y'all want to come up, got some pins for you, and we can get a little picture. That would be great.
Get down there.
And troop leaders, can you tell us again for the good of the group, where are all the kids in school?
In school?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so if you're in Glenville, raise your hand. Glenville Elementary. So these are all fifth graders.
Okay,
So it
right.
looks like we're all Glenville today.
Yes, we have a couple others that they were unable to attend today.
Understand.
And like I said, they're all fifth graders, and they're working towards their arrow of light. So they're weed low too.
Nice.
And we're pack 352.
Oh, Pack 350. We're so glad y'all came here. I understand y'all also working on the citizenship badge, correct, and their badge. So, we'll be available after the meeting to answer some questions for you all. But I wanted to make sure everybody had it. So, what's your name? How about you?
Thank
There you
you.
go. You are very welcome. What about you?
Definitely.
Sure.
Ma'am, you want to take a picture? Come on up here. Come on up here. You can identify them by their faces a whole lot better.
I'm a big blur.
We're gonna do a big group shot here.
Where would you like us?
So, everybody's ready. Okay, can we have board members? Come here and stand up on the upper level. Board members on the upper row, and then the scouts, there we go. Somebody slide down this way just a little bit. Slide down this way. Just in the general vicinity, and we'll get you. Then you'd get your own Boy Scout version of Pop Tropics.
We got a scout for you.
Oh, another scout, come on in real quick, hurry up. Come on, real quick.
We'll be in there. Just a photo.
That's right. All right. All right. Hold tight, here we go. Excellent.
We're so happy to have you all here. Thank y'all. Keep it up. Stick Thank you, Chuck.
Absolutely.
So, all right. 4.01, hearing of citizens and delegations. We did not have anyone sign up, so we'll move on to 5.01, report by Student Advisory Council. Ms. Taylor Havoski, did I get that right? So, welcome. Had the pleasure of seeing you and everybody else last night at the reception. So,
Yes, thank you guys for coming.
fl-
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and Dr. Nicely. My name is Taylor Holowski, and I'm the 2021-2022 Student Advisory Council Senior Rep. The Student Advisory Council started off this year with having our annual reception last night, September 8th, where we all got the opportunity to meet our newest 8th grader reps. We had each SAC member come to the podium and announce their name, school, grade, and who they came with, or one thing that they enjoyed about the SAC. Secondly, we went over the expectations for each student rep of SAC. This included coming to all meetings possible, attending outside activities such as the retreat, and meeting with their school principals. Next, we discussed details on our retreat, which will be held on October 7th from 9 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. We will be meeting at the Salem Museum, and this will be a time where we can all get to know each other on a personal level and discuss things we would like our council to go over throughout this school year. Lastly, we broke out into school groups and met with a few of the members of the board to talk about how school has been this far in this unusual school year. Thank you all for your continuous support of the Student Advisory Council and allowing the SAC the opportunity to vocalize our input. Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor. Appreciate y'all. All right, we'll move on to item 6. We've got a consent agenda, and just as a reminder for the good of the group and everybody out there watching, these are items that we discussed rather thoroughly at our work session which occurs on the first Tuesday of every month. So, do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second?
All right. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Weimer?
Yes.
Mr. Linden?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Blake?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Bay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. All right. All right, so no action items tonight. We'll move into information agenda. I've got Dr. Stegall. Item 8.01 is going to give us our regular COVID-19 update.
Yes, good evening,
Welcome.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Nicely. So numbers haven't changed a great deal, but I still wanted to share those with you tonight. So here's the first chart. This shows the daily rate of cases in the last 90 days. And you can see we're up pretty high. That was as of yesterday. So this is the total case count was at 66. So clearly going in the wrong direction. Here is our community transmission level. Of course, we're still balanced out at the high level, and that has not dropped yet. This one shows you the new cases per 100,000 in the last 7 days. And you can see it is taking a downward trend. However, I would predict that those numbers are going to go right back up after the holiday weekend because the cases, we have seen an increase in those numbers. So I don't think that we're trending down yet. Hopefully that will happen sooner than later. Mr. Lineberger, there we go. Do a quick rundown of our dashboard. Again, when you go to our website and you hit the COVID-19 dashboard, it takes you to these charts. The first one there, this is by school, and it shows you the number of cases, and you can see it's very evenly spread out across the board, so it's not really in any one area over another. These are our cases by date, and you can see the Monday right after the holiday, or the Tuesday, we really spiked, but you have to remember that's 3 days worth of data. And then this is showing the transmission that's happening in the school, and so those numbers are fairly low. Of course, we're out on Monday. And then this one shows our quarantine numbers. They are coming down a little bit, so that's the total numbers there. Okay. So the closure list, so we did have a school closed, we had some classrooms closed. Since then, all of those have returned. We have a classroom at Cundiff returning tomorrow, and 3 classrooms at Cundiff returning on Monday. We're actually bringing the Monday group back earlier because there's not been any other positive cases or exposures, so we've decided to bring that group back earlier than, they were supposed to come back on the 15th, we're now bringing them back on the 13th. I wanted to give you a little bit of a look at how this is impacting our athletics. So if you notice through there, I have the high schools and the middle schools in alphabetical order. We have 4 volleyball programs that have been slightly impacted. To date, we don't have any program that has gotten to a point where they're missing games or unable to reschedule games. Where we are right now is we're pausing for a week or so, missing some practices, backing up games. We're still not in jeopardy of not being able to make up these games. So as of right now, we're still doing okay. So we've had 4 JV programs, 2 cheer programs that have had to sit out for a week or so. And then our football program at William Byrd's postponing the game on Friday just because of some potential cases and exposures that they're currently contact tracing. And so they didn't want to jeopardize that. We don't have positive cases yet, but they did not want to take the chance of transmitting that. So they're pushing that game off a week. So that's what it looks like with our athletics. And then this is a chart I showed you last time. This is the number of the quarantines by school. And I just wanted to show you last week and this week just to see that there's really not a big change in the numbers. Our high schools, for whatever reason, we've got 2 high schools that have popped up a little bit. Those 2 high schools have had problems with athletics. So when you typically have a problem with athletics, then you have high numbers because you have students coming out of the classroom on the buses and off of athletics. So that impacts your quarantine numbers. I think that's what's happening there in the 2 high schools. But everybody else seems to be fairly neutral, not much change. So that's all I have. Any questions about COVID data?
Yes, Mr. Ray.
Dr. Stegall, I know it's a broken record, but since people are checking in and watching at different times, could you explain what we do for quarantine and when we have positive cases?
Yes. So when we have a positive case, our nurses will immediately start contact tracing. They go through the classrooms, the buses, athletic activities to determine if students were within 3 feet of each other with or without a mask. So they trace all that to determine if there's been any transmission or exposure. If there is exposure, then the students who are identified that have been exposed have to quarantine. Now, if you've been vaccinated, you do not have to quarantine as long as you're not showing symptoms. So the quarantine numbers are obviously higher than what your positivity rate's going to be. So a lot of times those kids that are quarantined never test positive and they never show symptoms. So there is a system that we're using. It's the quickest way to allow students back into school, and we allow them on the 5th day after being quarantined to go get a test. If they get a PCR test and it comes back negative, they can return on the 8th day. Otherwise, if they don't test, they can return on the 10th day as long as they're not showing symptoms. If they're showing symptoms, they still can't return until, they talk to the nurse or go get a negative test. One thing we are finding is it's more difficult to get a test now, and the test results are coming back more slowly, so it's taking 2 to 3 days for test results to come back. So our 7-day plan of trying to get kids back into the building quicker is not really helping us so much because they're not able to get a test and are not able to get it back quick enough. And that has nothing to do with the school. It has to do with the community availability of testing.
Thank you.
Mr. London?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. Do we have a defined set of metrics by which we're going to close classrooms, and has that been published anywhere so that parents know what it will take to close the classroom
So
or
we
school?
don't, because it's all individualized cases, so I can walk you through what that looks like. So in a classroom, let's say we have one positive test, and it's a student, right? So the student's positive. And then the next day, another one comes in, and they're positive. So when the kid's positive, they're going to identify who's been exposed. Those kids are then quarantined, so they're out of the school. So if those kids start showing symptoms within the Delta variant, symptoms are coming between 2 to 3 days, so that's coming quicker than it did originally. So typically, they start to show symptoms. When they start to show symptoms, they call the nurse. We know that those kids are getting ready to be tested. So when one more test comes back positive, that's when we can contemplate shutting the classroom. But here's the trick. So if this kid was positive and this kid was within range and exposed them, and both of them test positive, that means we've transmitted, that this kid has transmitted to that one. That's typically what closes the classroom. So we used to say it only takes 2 cases to close a classroom. Here's another example. We had one kid that tested positive. We had kids around them that were exposed. They were out on quarantine. The kid out in quarantine tested positive. However, the parent at the house was also positive. So they could not determine whether the student received the transmission from the home or from the school. So we waited one more case, and then once another case in that classroom was positive, we closed the classroom. So the magic number of 2 is not always the case. It goes by situation. But typically, it's within 2 to 3 cases we shut down a classroom. And then the way we shut down a school is very similar, the same way. So, for example, in one school, we had there's 4 classes in a grade level. 3 of them were all showing we were shutting down 3 classrooms in one grade level. Then what happens, multiple grade levels started showing positive results. And then there was transmission in 2 or 3 other classrooms. That's when we realized, and you also will feel it because we were 12 teachers down, because our teachers were being exposed, they were out, and they were symptomatic. So you can feel the pressure because the school is struggling to function because they don't have enough staff. So that was the case with Bonsack, because we were struggling having enough staff, and we also were getting constant calls of kids who had symptoms and who were testing positive. And then that's when you realize you've got to shut the school down. And it did work, because if you look at our numbers that I showed you, I think Bonsack has fairly low numbers of students in quarantine right now. So we shut that school down, that we had really high numbers, and now they've dropped back to a reasonable number. So it did work to bring it back down to normal and allow us to move forward.
Do we analyze whether those transmissions could have happened outside of the schools? I mean, a lot of these kids are playing sports together or doing things maybe on the same rec club team, maybe in the same Cub Scout group, maybe in the same, who knows where.
They do, but it's as simple as asking them, do you know of anybody else who has COVID? And if they say no, do you know anywhere else you could have been exposed to COVID? And if they say no, then the assumption is made that, well, we do know that you were sitting close enough to this child, so that's probably where you got it. So that's how it's determined. So it's somewhat of a guessing game. There's no 100% guarantee where they got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
All right, thank you.
when's the bird game being rescheduled for? Do you know?
I'm not sure. That team is so young that it's probably not gonna hurt anybody's feelings if we don't, because Christiansburg's gonna be very talented.
Yeah, they were going to try to reschedule it.
And he has
So
some
they're-
kids that are hurt, and he's gonna have freshmen that have to play, and it's unfortunate.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Segal. Appreciate the thorough update as usual. All right. I tell you what, Scouts, you might have picked we had a light agenda tonight, so you might have picked a good one to come to. 9.02, report by Roanoke County Public Schools Superintendent.
Thank you,
Dr. Nicely?
Mr. Chairman. Yeah, so I just want to add my thanks to Dr. Segal and all the work that she's done to shepherd this effort with the COVID updates and so forth. It's certainly a lot to keep track of, and certainly working with all the nurses and the administration of the school, it's been quite a bit. As tough as it's been here, we just had our regional superintendents meeting yesterday, and there's a lot of places, I always count my blessings with having such a great staff to work through and with here, because, and just, everybody's doing such a great job. It's definitely a challenge everywhere. Just a few updates for the information for the board. So the first meeting of our Roanoke County Burton Center Citizens Advisory Committee was held last week at the Burton Center. And the board's aware, of course, the Burton Center Citizens Advisory Committee was established jointly by the Roanoke County Board of Supervisors and the school board to study the needs of the Burton Center and make recommendations for replacing the current facility with a modern facility to meet the needs of current and future students and Roanoke County citizens. The committee did select Mr. Mike Altizer as the chair of the committee and Mr. Craig Balzer as vice chair. The committee took an extensive tour of the Burton Center. For some folks, that was the first time touring the center, and for others, first time in a long time. But to become familiar with all the diverse programs that we offer there, and we look forward to the Citizens Advisory Committee continue its important work to help navigate the process and move us one step closer to getting a new center in place. Would like to encourage everybody to mark your calendar for Thursday, October 7th, and that's when the Burton Center students and faculty are going to host a VCAT exposition night for the public. And we encourage everyone to come out and be amazed at what our students are learning and doing at the Burton Center. So as Taylor reported, our first official kickoff of the Student Advisory Committee, of course, was held last evening outdoors at our building. We look forward to working with this year's student leaders, including Taylor, and welcoming our new 8th grade representatives to the group. And great job last night, Taylor, in leading that. So I do appreciate the fact that the Student Advisory Committee is student-led, and it's a great opportunity for them to practice their leadership skills, and they, of course, always amaze us as well. Do want to remind everyone that the annual golf fundraiser for the Roanoke County Public Schools Education Foundation is held on Monday, September 20th, and we appreciate all the support the Education Foundation provides our students and teachers, and encourage all those who can to consider participating in this fundraiser. And of course, information is on our website, or you can give Mr. Lineberger over there a call and he'll set you up. Finally, I want to highlight a big event happening next Thursday, September 16th. Roanoke County Public Schools, of course, pioneered the student registered apprenticeship program here in this area. And over the past few years, the program has continued to grow and expand to include other school districts and an increasing number of businesses. So the signing event for new apprenticeships has become an annual celebration of the students, of the businesses, and of course the valuable program. So next Thursday, the annual signing event is actually going to be held at 6 o'clock over at the Salem Red Sox Stadium before that night's game. So that'll be a lot of fun, and we invite everyone to come out and cheer on these new apprentices in our student registered apprenticeship program. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dr. Nicely. Appreciate you. All right, and we'll move on to item 10.01, reports and inquiries of board members. Mr. Weimer, you want to kick us off tonight?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have anything other than to just make 2 or 3 comments. One, Dr. Nicely has just given us a list of some extremely important functions that are going on. Apprenticeship program, the Education Foundation, and the Burton exposition. Unfortunately, I'm going to be out of town until the 21st, and a lot of those are taking place between now and then. But rest assured that I will be thinking about those things, because they are great programs, and they certainly have and deserve the board's support. And I hope that the other board members will be able to attend and share my appreciation for their work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weimer. Mr. London?
I don't have anything tonight.
Okay. Mr. Greenway?
Yes, so, Ms. Taylor, I'm sorry I couldn't make it last night, but I know we've got a bright group. We're 1 year ahead of last year, so thank you, and I hope to hear more. And October 7th, I know last year actually was, I don't know if any of the board will be involved in that, but they did a Zoom-type meeting where they asked us some questions, so if there's any chance we can listen into that, I'd love to see if we can do that. Thank you, and I'm sorry I couldn't make it. Also, I hate that Chris isn't here tonight, because, and I know I'm not a huge mask wearer when I don't have to, but I got to get one of those. I got to get one of those. So I'll get with Chris. I was hoping I'd see him so I could harass him. Other than that, I don't have anything. I'm glad the school year's going well so far, and I hope it continues. Thank you.
Is that a Clemson mask? Is that?
No, it's not no.
So, all right. Mr. Ray?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have anything except echo my sentiments of not being here next week. I'll be out of town as well, so I will miss the event next week. But I look forward to the other events, and thank you for all the staff, teachers that are working through these different situations that happen every day. You can't go a day without something happening, and they're working through it, and so we do appreciate them and their tireless efforts. Principals, teachers, staff, county administration staff, everyone. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr.
Well said, Mr. Ray. I think we all echo that that sentiment when it comes to our teachers, staff, and everybody. Thank you to our bus drivers, our nutrition staff. I mean, I've been reading so many reports about, some schools are temporarily shutting down because they don't have enough bus drivers. I mean, we are so fortunate, and, thank you to, my fellow board members for, allowing us to get those benefits back to the bus drivers. I think that was key. Are we still down just 3, to your knowledge?
I don't have an accurate.
I know it's single digit.
I don't have
very
an
few.
accurate report for you this evening, but we were expecting, we had several drivers having to go out on some medical leave to start the year, but they should be trickling back about this
Wonderful.
time and over the next couple of weeks. And we also have, continue to have some new drivers in our training pipeline.
Nice.
So we should be in really good shape.
Great. Well,
We can
thank
always
you.
use more, so.
Absolutely. So, yes, and just, the event last night with the Student Advisory Council, it was nice to be there, nice to, it really does produce some of what I'd like to consider some of our future leaders, and it is interesting to have conversations with the eighth graders who are new to this, and the shyness that comes with that versus some of our upperclassmen. I kind of likened it to when my daughter was in the band in middle school, if you all know what I mean. You go to that 6th grade recital and, you're proud of your kid, but there's a big difference between 6th grade and 8th grade. But got to have a breakout with some of the reps from Hidden Valley High School, so we, just a chance to talk to their board member, and it's funny because we do take the feedback seriously. I mean, the Student Advisory Council played a huge role when we, updated our dress code a few years ago, made that, quite more progressive than some of our surrounding localities. And, there was some feedback, in that meeting, and, a sense of wanting, the teachers to be more consistent when they're enforcing the dress code, for one, and had a request if we could get a second bus from Hidden Valley to BCAT every day. He said sometimes that bus is crowded and they're setting 3 to a seat, more water bottle filling stations. So, we do take that feedback seriously. So do appreciate the Student Advisory Council. So that's all I've got. As everybody said, some important events coming up next week. Our Education Foundation, that's the biggest fundraiser, that golf tournament. So if you know anybody wanting to put a team together, we'd certainly appreciate that. Maybe make a donation. That provides important scholarships for our students, not only, and also they're a big supporter of our Golden Apple Awards, and also teacher classroom scholarships and grants. So, but with that being said, we'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting. I hope everybody has a great evening and a great weekend.